All right, happy Thursday. We begin tonight with that massive federal sports gambling investigation that is now rocking the world of professional basketball just as the season begins. 3 current and former NBA players and a current coach are among the more than 30 people indicted in 2 probes involving 4 of the New York City Mafia families. The players involved are Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups, and former Cleveland player Damon Jones. Police arrested them this morning. One scheme allegedly involved sports betting using insider NBA information. The other, underground rigged poker games across the country that the feds dubbed Operation Royal Flush. The FBI director says it all involved tens of millions of dollars in theft, fraud, and robbery. And prosecutors say these defendants have now been dealt their losing hand.
My message to the defendants who've been rounded up today is this. Your winning streak has ended. Your luck has run out. Violating the law is a losing proposition, and you can bet on that.
The NBA announced today Rozier and Billups have been placed on immediate leave. In a statement today, the league said it is taking these allegations with utmost seriousness, and the integrity of the game remains its top priority. Now, integrity is what is at the heart of these allegations in insider trading, dubbed nothing but bet.
Players and associates allegedly used inside information to manipulate prop bets on major sports betting platforms. They placed wagers on unders on players to score less, rebound less, assist less, using information that was not yet public. In some instances, players altered their performance or took themselves out of games to make sure that those bets paid out.
Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier is tied to that case. In one example from March of 2023, when Rozier was playing with the Hornets, prosecutors say he told his co-defendants that he would leave a game early with a supposed injury. They then placed, those co-defendants, more than $200,000 worth of bets on his performance not being so hot that night. It's also believed that at least one fraudulent bet was placed involving LeBron James. Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups is accused of being part of an illegal poker ring. He is accused of playing in rigged games backed by the Mafia. This cheating scheme allegedly relied on high-tech technology, including X-ray tables that could read the cards face down and rigged shuffling machines that they used to count cards. They also allegedly used specially designed contact lenses and sunglasses to read the backs of playing cards. It's wild, these details. Let's get reaction now from our panel. Jeff Kobe is a former player with the New York Knicks. Daniel Wallach is a gambling law expert known as the sports betting attorney. And Craig Carton is a sports radio host and recovering gambling addict. He's now an advocate for responsible gambling. Great to have all 3 of you here. All right, Jeff, I'm going to start with you. For our viewers who aren't, in the NBA, we are talking about prominent players here. Billups is a Hall of Famer. Rozier is a veteran. He's been in the NBA for 10 seasons. What's your reaction to all this?
It was, honestly, I was just in utter disbelief because, you work so hard to get to, the top of your craft and industry, and, just a simple something so it's so hard for me to conceptualize because you don't have to do these things,
Right.
Like you've done the bulk of the work,
Yeah. Craig, you say this has been a long time concern for the NBA, that players would do exactly this, try and fix the outcome of a game by giving inside information to people to place bets. What kind of inside information are we talking about?
Well, exactly what you said in the open, which is trading on information that the public doesn't yet have. Is the guy hurt? Is the guy not going to play in a game? Is the guy willing to even pull himself out of the game, which is what Rozier is accused of right now by the federal government. But, this has been a tempest in a teapot waiting to explode for a very long time, even before the NBA and the other leagues got into bed with gambling companies. Because this is the easiest way for a guy to help a friend out, a buddy out that's maybe having financial difficulty. It's the only aspect of a basketball game that a player can guarantee the outcome of. It's betting under his stats for a particular game.
Right.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, you know, the NBA asked me to come in and speak to all the rookies at this year's symposium just to give them a heads up of the potential dangers of gambling. It affects only about 2% of anyone that's ever going to gamble, but it strikes at the heart of what keeps commissioners awake late at night, which is singular, and that is people being able to attack the integrity of the outcome of a game. And now that the leagues have brought legalized gambling into their world by taking hundreds of millions of dollars from all the legal above board wagering sites, now that integrity is called into question more than ever.
Yeah.
You have millions of Americans now risking their mortgage payments on the outcome of games, and more specifically, the outcome of a single player's performance in a singular game. So if we're going to now question the outcome of those performances because of a situation like this, it's the biggest nightmare for professional sports.
Yeah, Adam Silver, the head of the NBA, the NBA commissioner, probably has a massive headache tonight. Daniel, I'm going to get to you in a second, but Jeff, I'm just curious, is this something other players would notice? Like, would anybody notice if suddenly somebody said, I'm feeling a little sick today, or, oh, I just pulled my Achilles tendon, I got to go, I got to leave the game suddenly in the middle of the game. Is this something fellow players and coaches would notice?
Well, at the professional level, you know, you've worked so hard to get to where where you are. There's a certain level of integrity and work that goes into that.
So you're
whole
just going to trust
process.
them.
So, and normally, like, you would just trust them, you know, it's face value, because at the end of the day, basketball is a team sport. And if you're missing a crucial part of your team, you know, you're hurting your chances of winning. And at the end of the day, like, the majority of people's goals is to win a championship and, you know, to continue winning.
All right.
So
Daniel, sports betting sites are on the lookout for this kind of fraud, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the supposed advantages of having a regulated, monitored sports betting framework. You have sports books that are engaging technology firms to detect wagering patterns, unusual and suspicious wagering activity. And I think the prop bets are at the heart of the problem, because
Explain what that is. What are prop bets?
what Craig was alluding to earlier, when a player when there's a wager that's available on a player's individual performance within a game, whether he will exceed a certain statistical benchmark or not, and it could be rebounds, block shots, points, and players can impact. I mean, they are solely responsible for impacting and altering their own performance. But the reality of it is that that market is not as voluminous as, let's say, betting on the outcome of the game or betting on the Super Bowl. Nobody is alleging that games have been fixed. What this strikes at the heart of is how easy it is for players to manipulate their own performance. And in a regulated sports betting framework, that kind of activity easily gets detected, or should get detected, prior to PASPA, which was the federal law that prevented states from legalizing sports betting. All of this was in the darkness. You had no idea what was going on. Now there are detection systems, technology companies that are watching all this stuff. And if a player pulls himself out of a game and there is a significant amount of action on the under around that time period, red flags go off, and that is something that's detectable. And I think the players are stupid to think, any individual athlete is foolish to think that he will get away maybe once, but on repeat occasions, that this is such an easy thing to detect because it is not tied to outcome of games. These companies can pinpoint the betting activity and match that with the decisions.
And by the way, I think that's an important.
It's not hard to detect.
It's an important point Daniel's referencing, because what's not happening today, because of the news as it's breaking, and it's dramatic, right? The only reason this came to light to the federal government is because the NBA self-reported. So the protections are in place. As soon as these crazy wagers were made on specifically Terry Rozier's, singular performance in one random game, a game that he allegedly took himself out of with a fake injury, the NBA got a phone call from these bodies that protect them against this. They immediately go to the feds. We have a problem. So this is the results of self-reporting. If the NBA and all the legalized online wagering sites didn't have these protections in place, then he would have gotten away with it. And the reality is that you also have to remember, most criminals are stupid. right? The notion that you're going to bet hundreds of thousands of dollars on the personal performance of Terry Rozier and no one's going to pay attention to that is just comical.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, Craig, you just said that you were lecturing the incoming rookie players in the NBA this year on the dangers of sports gambling. I'm curious, Jeff, did you get a briefing like that? What did your coaches or team leaders tell you about, sports betting and avoiding it?
For sure. And because I went to Colombia from 2013 to 2017, so we weren't allowed to accept money, dinners, anything like that, anything that was in violation with the NCAA rules. So whenever, people have to be extremely mindful when especially athletes, when they're having conversations with people, because it could be something so simple as, so how do you think you're going to perform tonight? And that
Not so great. I got a bum knee today, or
Exactly, and you could say something that in the future can incriminate you. So just honestly being mindful of your surroundings, and also just adopting that growth mindset of just learning and actually absorbing the information. And at the professional level, it's like in my mind, it's like you worked so hard to get here. Why would you jeopardize that for a quick buck? It's just not worth it, in my opinion.
Of course it's not. It's also illegal and hurts the game and the league and the integrity of a sport that millions and millions of people worldwide love and watch. But Craig, answer that question. As a reformed gambling addict yourself, why do some of these players who were indicted today, earned tens of millions, if not more than $100 million? Yeah. Why are they gambling? Why are they involved in this?
It's a great question. What most of the public is saying is just that, hey, Chauncey Billups, which is a different case because it revolved around fixing the outcome of games or stats. That's a poker thing that was allegedly rigged, which is kind of a separate situation than what Terry Rozier and Javante Porter before him and Malik Beasley before him have been accused of doing. There's two sets of guys here. They may have gambling problems themselves. And as a guy who had a gambling problem, I can tell you, you throw all rationality into the wind and you don't process things correctly or even legally. And you start making bad decisions because you're worried about where the next dollar comes from or who I owe money to or how am I going to bet next. The other person involved in this may not have a gambling problem at all. And the thing that we lose sight of are the pledges and promises a lot of guys that play professional sports have made to the kids they grew up with. Yeah. So play this out for a second. You're a friend of Terry Rozier's, right? And you're on hard times. He's wealthy. He was going to make $26 million this year. So you go to him, hey, man, I'm in trouble. I can't pay my mortgage. I'm having a kid. I got fired. Whatever the case may be, you put that athlete in a precarious situation. A lot of guys don't want to write a check. I'm not giving you my money, but here's what I can do for you. Next Wednesday, if you bet the under in my personal performance, I guarantee you that you'll win and you can put whatever money you need in your back pocket, but the money's not coming from me. Okay. I know people can't relate to that. That is real. That happens. And the other thing I'd caution your audience about is this. Right now, today, there are active players in all four major North American sports that are actively gambling on their own sport every single day of the week.
That is disturbing and sobering. All right, we're out of time, but Daniel, super quick, what kinds of time, if these men are convicted, do they face?
Well, first of all, these are just allegations in an indictment.
Absolutely, innocent until proven guilty.
They're entitled to due process, a jury trial, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and I don't want us to already assume.
No, we haven't. We've just established that. But what were the penalties?
You're talking about federal felonies. You're talking about serious time. 10 years or more. I mean, I don't know the baseline for these particular criminal offenses, but when you're in the federal system and you're prosecuted, these are not de minimis criminal punishments. They carry severe incarceration terms.
Wow. All right, Jeff Kobe, Daniel Wallach, Craig Curtin, thank you all three so much. I really appreciate all of your unique perspectives. And my next guest has another different perspective on all this. Owen Hansen is a former University of Southern California football player who went from backup quarterback to kingpin of a massive illegal drug and sports betting empire. His clients even including the dangerous Sinaloa Mexican drug cartel. He served about 10 years for money laundering and drug trafficking. Owen Hansen joins me now. He is also, by the way, the author of The California Kid, From USC Golden Boy to International Drug Kingpin. All right, Owen, you have a definitely unique perspective on all this. You ran a multi-million-dollar sports betting ring. You know this world. Talk me through what you see in these indictments today. How easy or hard was it for these people to allegedly do what they're alleged to have done?
Well, nowadays, you have so many eyes on you. So when you get caught, obviously they've been doing their homework. The FBI followed me for 5 years before they indicted me. So when they make that arrest, it's usually pretty much a slam dunk for them. No pun intended.
Yeah. Prosecutors say multiple charges involve 4 mafia families and organized crime networks. This part of the indictment really intrigues me. You yourself, when you were up to your not so great stuff, were involved with a drug cartel. Are you not surprised to see the involvement of these 4 different mafia families?
No, not at all. When there's money involved, the organized crime's involved, right? And when it's a professional athlete, it makes it a lot easier because they're able to bring in these big whales. You're bringing them to these poker games where the athletes are these stars and everyone wants to be around them. So they're taking a Joe Schmo off the street that wants to be around professional athletes and spend a lot of money on these, poker games or sports betting.
Yeah, I heard somebody say that for organized crime families, sports betting is low-hanging fruit. It's easy money.
Yeah, they've been doing it for 100 years. The mob's been bookmaking for a century now. And you know what? I say the money is never enough. And you're looking at professional athletes that are making millions of dollars a year. And it's just, you're chasing that rush, right? I remember I started booking bets at 22 years old and it just wasn't enough. Next thing you know, I'm booking bets for the cartel and laundering money for them. And you're just chasing that rush. And I feel that's what these professional athletes have been going through.
How did you get from booking bets while you were in college to booking bets for the cartel? How do you make a leap that big?
Yeah, it was by accident. I'm not going to lie. My sports book got so big in the United States, I wanted to expand. And I told my sub bookies, I said, hey, let's go international. And I was just this kid that had a lot of ambition, right? And I came from that blue collar family and I just wanted to take it to the next level. And one of my sub bookies ended up bringing me a customer out of Mexico, and unbeknownst to me, it ended up being a lieutenant for the cartel.
Is there something about athletes that makes them susceptible to gambling? I mean, I'm thinking the rush of competition, the aggressive, competitive instinct that you have to win, to beat your opponent. Are there some links there?
Absolutely. I had on my indictment, I had Derek Lavelle, who was a 3-time Super Bowl champ, that was gambling with me. And, throughout the years, I was a bookmaker. I had a professional athlete in every sport gambling with me. And it's, I've taken these guys golfing and I've had dinner with them. And I've been a college athlete myself, winning 2 national championships under Pete Carroll. So it's that competitiveness, you wanting to win. And as an athlete, a former athlete myself, we're so competitive in life. We want to win in sports, and it's the same when it's gambling. You don't want to lose money. You want to win, and you're just chasing and chasing and chasing until you win.
I just remember, hearing all the reports about Michael Jordan and his, he used to gamble. No indication he did anything illegal. But the point is there does seem to be, we see over and over again, that link between athletes like yourself, like some of the people who were indicted today, who are at the very, very pinnacle of success in a very, very tough sport, who are engaging in this activity and, these crimes as alleged today, and you admit yourself crimes that you committed, and something about that competitive instinct that leads you into that underworld.
Yeah, no doubt. It's just that athlete in you, and when you have an edge and you're able to win, in poker we call it the stone cold nuts, and it's like a guaranteed win. And And if you have a guaranteed win, you're going to keep betting bigger and bigger because you know you're not going to lose.
Yeah, I was struck by something you said. You said, I thought I was smart enough to control it all and manage the risks. I was completely wrong. It all can get out of control super fast. And that line, very fuzzy. Owen Hansen, fascinating to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Take care.
All right, with just a week and a half until the election on who will lead America's biggest city, New York City's mayor, current mayor, who's not running, just officially endorsed the candidate that he apparently now wants to be his successor.
Well, you criticized Andrew and you called him names. You know what? And he called me names. But you know what? Now it's time to fight for the family. And I'm going to fight for the family with Andrew Cuomo as the next mayor of the city of New York.
Well, that endorsement and that hug came just hours after the pair were spotted in this very public photo op, Adams and Andrew Cuomo, looking like old friends sitting courtside at the New York Knicks game last night. A relationship that mayoral frontrunner Zoran Mamdani criticized, saying, no surprise to see those two aligning. Joining us now is Chris Cillizza, NewsNation contributor and senior advisor at the DGA Group. All right, so this last-minute endorsement comes from Eric Adams, the current mayor, whose approval rating is at a 30-year low. Is that going to do anything to help Andrew Cuomo?
First of all, I just love the prominence of Eric Adams endorsing in a Knicks hat. I mean, it's like the most New York City thing of all time.
Yeah. The day we have the
Elizabeth,
NBA betting scandal erupting. Go on.
I know. Golly. I don't think it will make... let me explain why I don't think it makes a huge difference. First of all, Eric Adams has already been out of the race for several weeks, right? And there was a poll that was released that showed with Adams out, Cuomo went up 10 points. Now, I'll note, up 10 points is still not within striking distance of Zoran Mamdani. And this is the big reason I don't think it makes a huge difference, that poll only included 3 candidates, Zoran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and Curtis Sliwa. The problem is Eric Adams, the sitting mayor, dropped out of the race too late to have his name removed from the ballot. So if you go in and you go to vote in New York City, Eric Adams' name is still going to be on the ballot. So, look, Andrew Cuomo's only path, I've been saying this for months, you and I have talked about this. Andrew Cuomo's only path is a one-on-one race against Zoran Mamdani. That's not going to happen. Eric Adams isn't really the problem.
Yeah.
He was running 4th out of 4. The problem, amazingly, is Curtis Sliwa, who's getting like 16, 17, 18% of the vote. And those are votes that would probably go to Cuomo in a 1v1 against Zoran.
Yeah, Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee, who the head of the Republican Party, President Donald Trump, has said is, quote, unserious. Listen, a lot of folks outside New York City are saying, why should I care about this? The White House is paying very close attention to this race. This says a lot, perhaps, about the direction of the Democratic Party writ large. If a Democratic socialist can take over, and a Muslim, as mayor of the biggest city in New York, in the United States. It's a big deal watching this race because it can impact a lot of things.
Absolutely. Look, I would say, yes, the White House is watching the race. Donald Trump talks about it all the time because even though Donald Trump is no longer a resident of New York City, he's a Florida resident, he's still, look, he grew up in New York. He cares about New York. But what I would say is, you know who's really watching this race closely, Elizabeth? Every Democrat who's on the ballot in 2026. Because if Zoran Mamdani wins, and I think he's going to, I mean, to me, the race is effectively over unless something crazy happens. I think Zoran Mamdani's going to win. If Zoran Mamdani wins, you will see the next day fundraising appeals from Republicans, Republican candidates asking their Democratic opponents whether they agree with Zoran Mamdani's proposal. He is going to become the Republican boogeyman in the same way that Teddy Kennedy used to be, and the same way that Hillary Clinton was, and the same way that Nancy Pelosi was. Zoran Mamdani and the policies he has advocated will be something Republicans will try to hang around the neck of every single Democratic candidate. It's why Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, the two leaders in Congress who are both from New York, won't endorse him. Now, they may do it at the end here, you know, like on a Sunday when no one's paying any attention, but The point is the election's in less than 2 weeks. Mamdani doesn't need Hakeem Jeffries. He doesn't need Chuck Schumer. But I think the fact that they won't endorse speaks volumes about the concern within the Democratic establishment outside of New York what Mamdani could mean.
Yeah, the discomfort about what Zohran Mamdani stands for and his far left brand of politics. The fact that, wow, it's going to be still, even though you're right, unless something dramatic happens to shake this up, he's going to win in a week and a half, and it's still kind of amazing to consider that. Chris Cillizza, always
I don't
good.
think people have wrapped their heads around it.
No, I
I don't think
so
people
either.
have wrapped their heads around it. Trust me, if you're a Democrat in a swing district, you should be paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thanks, Chris. Great to have you on. Coming up for us, Sean Diddy Combs has reportedly been held at knife point in prison. That's true. What does that say about a possible pardon from President Trump? We're going to talk live with Sean Combs' lawyer, Mark Garagos. He joins me next. Now to rapper turned convict Sean Diddy Combs, who was still holed up at a notorious federal facility in Brooklyn, New York. Unconfirmed reports emerged overnight that Combs recently woke up with a makeshift knife pressed to his throat. Seconds from death, read the headlines emblazoned on some tabloid websites. It's still not clear whether the intention was to hurt or intimidate Combs, but the incident, if it happened, is said to have rattled him significantly. The cynics out there may think it's all very interesting timing, given that there are rumors that the White House is considering a pardon for Combs. The idea of having your life threatened in a shady lockup could possibly tug at the heartstrings of anybody involved in making a decision about a pardon. President Trump did recently confirm that Combs has reached out to him.
A lot of people have asked me for pardons. I call him Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon.
It should be noted that the White House has firmly pushed back on reports that a pardon was coming. Meanwhile, whether Combs' release is now or later, the people around him believe he does have a whole career comeback waiting for him. His attorney, Mark Garagos, says Combs will, quote, make a comeback the likes of which people are not expecting. And Mark Garagos joins us now. Thanks so much for joining us. Great to have you. So have you talked to Sean since this reported knife incident in the prison?
Well, I know that previously, and it was in the sentencing paperwork, that that has happened, and he's in a prison facility. These are the things that happens in a prison facility. I might push back just a wee bit on the setup for this, and that for those who think that this was purposefully leaked in order to curry favor or anything else, that's not within Sean's wheelhouse, so to speak. So I think if there is any kind of a pardon or commutation in the works, I think it's probably more a product of the president understanding that Sean, like the president, they both share, or it resonates that New York prosecutors came after him and weaponized the legal system, and that's Sean has now been through it, just as President Trump has been through it. So there is I don't want to call it a kumbaya, but there's certainly a resonance or a similarity between the two.
President Trump, as we've just played, said that Sean Combs had reached out to him. Do you know how that happened? Did he write a letter? Did somebody place a call for him? How did that happen?
I know that it did. I'm not going to betray exactly how, but I know that there has been that communication, and I know that obviously Sean would welcome a commutation or a pardon. That's no secret. I saw today with great interest that there was another person who the president commuted his sentence because of
a Bitcoin
what he
person who pled guilty.
Yeah, correct. And got sentenced, and president thought it was an overreach. If that was an overreach, and I forget the exact sentence, but I think it pales in comparison to Sean's. And remember, one of the things that is irksome, if you will, about Sean's, and I call him Sean, the president calls him Puff Daddy. I call him Sean as long as I've known him. One of the things that is somewhat irksome is that the government took a big swing at him, and basically tried to get him into take his entire fortune and net worth and the rest of his life, and they lost. And I think that the 50-month sentence was punitive, if you will. I think, if anything, he should have gotten some consideration for the fact that he took the gamble, he risked it, he went to trial, and basically beat all the mandatory life sentences and beat the mandatory divestiture of all of his assets.
You told TMZ in an interview that you think Sean is going to make the comeback, the likes of which people are not expecting. How is that possible? I mean, there has been an extraordinary amount of dirty laundry, let's just put it that way, displayed in this trial. Things that Sean Combs himself felt that he needed to apologize for when he was given a chance to address the judge.
I've been around one or two or three people who have been counted out, who I've defended over the last, I don't know, 40 some odd years. I will tell you, if you just think back 6 months, Elizabeth, I think anybody who would tell you 6 months ago, I remember my daughter Tenny going on and saying publicly that the media got it wrong before the trial ever took place. All of the kinds of wild rumors, all of the kind of conspiracy theories, and there was, I don't think there was anyone who thought he would be where he sits today, which is not guilty on the RICO, not guilty on sex trafficking, not guilty on another sex trafficking.
Right.
I've seen Sean overcome, I think, obstacles, maybe not as large as this, but obstacles where people counted him out. Remember, this is somebody who grew up, whose father was murdered and didn't have two nickels to rub together, and made himself into an iconic African-American billionaire. And I just think that he's got all of, if anybody's going to ever make a comeback, he's the guy to do it.
2 seconds left. How are his spirits? Good, bad?
He has tough days, like everybody else.
Okay.
He'll get through it.
All right. Mark
2
Aragos.
seconds. How was that?
You were great, as always. I thank you very much for being so succinct. All right. Coming up, back to our top story, the gambling scandal rocking the NBA. What happens now? Chris Cuomo joins me live to discuss. All right, Chris Cuomo joins me now. This gambling story has been huge all day long, and you're about to talk to a former NBA referee who went to prison for fixing games. I think that is going to be fascinating. Are you surprised by all this?
No, and that saddens me on two levels. One, because sports betting is gambling, fixing, what they're calling insider trading. It's not new.
Yeah.
These are human beings. They're vulnerable. The reason it bothers me is that I hate that I know that it is ridiculous for people to believe that the Mafia, a stain on my ethnicity and something that my family in particular has to carry around like an albatross, is not active. Gotti just changed how the mob does what it does. They have always been active, and they are doing all kinds of things all the time. There were 4 families involved in this.
I don't think many people thought there were still 4 functioning Mafia families still. I mean, you're right.
Let me tell you something.
We don't hear them.
Here's what I know that I can say. This is nothing. If the feds want to go after what is going on here, there are so many more people who are going to get dragged in, so many more tentacles of what they're running, that you have seen nothing. You have seen nothing with what they have so far.
I heard we had a guest on the show who said he personally knows that it's not just basketball. In every single professional sport, there are professional players who are involved in this kind of activity, this sports betting, this sort of, I'll call in sick midway through game, or I'll fake an injury and therefore place a bet that, we won't do as well, or I won't do as well. These prop bets.
Well, we only know what they can show. Speculation is fine. Well, I heard. It's not how the system works. So
Right.
we'll see if they want to make the case, and then we'll see what case there is to be made. I got to get after it.
All right, get after it. Have a good one.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.